From Relay FM, this is Upgrade, episode 514 for May 27th, 2024. Today's show is brought to you by Squarespace, Vitally, and Ladder. My name is Mike Hurley. I am joined by Jason Snell. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Mike.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm traveling for the long holiday weekend. How's your bank holiday going?
I was going to say, I wondered if you were going to say, I was thinking about this
Are you
today.
free from banks?
If you would say to me, Happy Memorial Day, and then I would say to you, Happy Early Spring Bank Holiday, which
Bank
is what this
holiday,
one is technically called. We have so many, they have to give them designations like early spring, early summer, late summer, you know, or
Well,
first
congratulations
August bank holiday, second
to everybody
August.
celebrating the bank holiday, except for the workers in the banks who have to work on the bank holiday.
Well, I mean, and podcasters.
We do this to ourselves.
This is a funny thing
We
where,
do.
like, I'm sure we've mentioned this a million times on the show for this exact reason, where people, you know, I'm working on bank holidays here, and people are like, "Oh, you work on the bank holidays?" Like, yep, because Jason doesn't. And then but then I say, well, similarly, there's any American, like, what do you call them, public holidays that are on Mondays. Yeah. Jason works them because I'm working. This is the one where we technically both could have just said, no, let's not bother, but why would we do that?
This is the truth. The truth is, if either of us has a holiday that we want to take off and move the show, we'll move the show.
Yeah.
Or we'll pre-record it. The problem is, then you have to say, well, can we do it on Friday? Or can we move it to Tuesday? And I got to move a thing here, and I got to do this there. And in the end, usually you and I look at each other and are like, let's just do it.
I think Merlin has spoken about this the most, of like the knock-on effects of one podcast moving.
It is. It can be disastrous.
How many other shows it moves? Like because everybody's doing shows of everybody else, so all of the shows just start moving.
Exactly, and so it's often easier unless you're traveling. I mean, I'm traveling here, and I was able. There's a car trip. I brought lots of stuff with me because I could do that. But unless you're if you're traveling for the holiday and you're truly taking a holiday, then we'll move the show, right? Yeah. We'll move the show. I didn't have to do this today, but I didn't want to go through that of rescheduling it. So here we are.
I have a Snell Talk question for you that comes from Ryan, and Ryan says, in what order do you think Apple prioritizes their operating systems, and how would that differ from how you would prioritize them? Now, for the sake of the question, I have them listed as follows, not in order, but just listed: iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, visionOS, tvOS. So, Jason, what do you think Apple's ranking of priority is for these operating systems, and what would you like it to be?
I think it varies. I think it varies based on the life cycle of a product, and I think they also kind of maybe flip a little bit from time to time. So right now I would say, iOS is always number one. Right now I would say maybe even visionOS is number two because it's a product that's still in process of happening. And then I would probably say iPadOS only because it picks up a lot of the work of iOS. So it's coming along for the ride. Then I would say macOS, then watchOS, and then tvOS.
I would 100% agree with you. How would you like them to be ranked?
Well, me as a user, as the
you
CEO of Apple.
No, you
right?
as Jason Snell. You as you. How would you like them to be ranked? Like in your ideal world, how would you do it?
macOS, iPadOS, tvOS.
Wow.
visionOS. iOS.
That's wild. That's a wild ranking. That is incredible. I love it.
Apple TV is my only TV box. So, if I'm purely greedy. Now, if I was the CEO of Apple, iOS is first. iOS is first. iOS has gotten a lot of love.
It doesn't need
more love. I know. I would do it very differently. But if I'm greedy, the iPhone's fine. The other products need more love, and I know why they don't get them, but they need more love. And tvOS, I shout out to Joe Rosensteel, who's written many, many, many blog posts about this. But tvOS has so much potential because even though that box is more expensive than the competition, it's the hardware is so much better. There's so much that could be improved about it, and it just doesn't get better. And so I use it every day. So I would like it to be way better than it is, and the potential's there, but it's just not there. And I mean, truth is, I'd probably rate Vision OS highly because I think that there's a lot of potential there, and I think they just desperately need to improve it.
All right, my personal ranking would be, in my ideal world, iOS, Mac OS, iPad OS, Vision OS, Watch OS, TV OS.
Mm.
And while I similarly love tvOS, the things I want them to do for tvOS, I don't think they're going to be able to do them because it requires Netflix and stuff. And like,
if you make it a priority, you make a deal with Netflix, right?
Then I would flip. Okay, in that regard, I'll flip tvOS and WatchOS. WatchOS, I don't really need to do anything. Like, it's fine for me as it is. Like, I'm good with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I actually would, if I was in charge, there would be another operating system called Fitness OS, and I would put that on a band with no screen, you know. But yeah, that's where I would go.
All right.
For me, iOS, I think it is the most important still. Like, and I would still put it that way because the work of iOS will inform all the other OSs, and I think it will only ever work that way. Like, I can't imagine macOS features really influencing iOS as heavily as iOS can influence macOS. Like, that's how I would waterfall it.
All right.
Thank you to Ryan for that great question. If you would like to send in one of your own, please go to upgradefeedback.com and you can send in a Snell Talk question to help us open an episode of Upgrade. A little bit of follow-up. First off, I would like to thank all of the listeners and the Upgradians who are the same, one and the same, who wrote in via various means to give us lovely comments about the new show artwork. I'm very happy with it, and I'm happy that people love it too. Looks good.
We did a little fix on the Upgrade Plus art for Upgrade Plus members. It was there's a funny story here that it was using the tagline from and the taglines are kind of superfluous and you have to look for them, but it was using the tagline from the main show instead of the little cheeky extra word. So I put that word back in the Photoshop file. And I also noticed when people were posting them that in our old Upgrade Plus show art, we capitalized all the things in the tagline, whereas in the regular show art we didn't. So it was like up style on the one and down.
Well, it was inconsistent. You know, you can blame for years. That. Steven.
Who?
Steven made all of the membership show up.
Well, he blew it, but I fixed it. So
or maybe it was me.
It should be perfect.
It's either me or Steven.
All right, the owners, the dereliction of the owners, but it has been corrected, and
thank you
responsible
so much.
Parties don't even know who they are.
No, it's impossible.
Very important
to know.
Stuff here.
It might be possible to know, actually. I'll see if I can try and find out the answer to that. Maybe there's like some kind of like provenance to the file somewhere.
It's nice that people like it. It was I'm very happy that we refreshed it without changing it, essentially, because that was the brief, right? Like, you and I both were very happy with our logo. We just didn't want it to. We just felt like it needed some improvement. So
yeah. It needed a refresh.
Yeah, it's geomorphic now.
Carlos wrote in and said, listening to a discussion about the iPhone Slim, I am thinking that this kind of market segmentation damages the iPhone brand. When I had an iPhone 5, if you had the latest iPhone, you had the best iPhone. It democratized the best in the world. But now, the regular iPhone just means you can't afford the quote-unquote good ones. I wonder if it's worth it for Apple to go higher in market segmentation and alienate users.
Always love some follow-up from Carlos because he's a little feisty, and I often disagree with him, but I think he makes interesting points. I feel like the existence of first off, I question the premise that it just means you can't afford the good ones, because I know a lot of people who buy the iPhone 15, and it's not because they can't afford the 15 Pro. It's that they don't think that's a good use of their money. Like, for them, the cheaper phone is fine, and that the Pro is like, what am I really getting out of it? And there are other people for whom it's like not a question, just like pay the most and want the best. And so that's, I think, good market segmentation. I think similarly, if you're Apple and you have the opportunity to make a $2,000 phone that feels like the future, but no, and you're like, well, we can't make the iPhone $2,000, right? We can't do it. It will be disastrous. But what we could do, and I'm making up that number, but like it's a proxy for a big number, way more than the current phones. Well, you can't replace the iPhone right now, but you could make that phone if you're capable and sell it and get people a taste of the future, and some portion of your audience will buy it. I don't buy the premise that the iPhone's success is based on the fact that everybody gets the same one, because that hasn't been true for several years, and the iPhone is still successful. And in fact, there are people who are perfectly happy to buy the cheaper model because they don't feel like they need to buy all those features. They're not going to use all those features, or they don't want all those features, and they'll save a little bit of money, and it makes them feel good about buying the iPhone of their choice. I don't think there are a lot of iPhone 15 and 14 owners going, oh man, I don't like this phone. I wanted the good phone, but I couldn't afford it, so I just got this. I don't think that's the case. I think that's a different market segment.
But even if there are, I don't think Apple cares, and I think that the results have borne out. Like,
well, they haven't lost sales over it, I don't think, right?
The thing about aspirational goods is in the name. Like, they will make expensive, full-featured iPhones because the majority of people will want to buy them, and either will or they will look to the point when they can, and they will just look forward to when they can make that purchase. Like, you're a student now, but when you have a job, maybe you'll get the Pro phone because you're not having a phone bought for you by your parents who are trying to just get you what they can afford, right? Like, I don't think that... Well, honestly, if this was the case, this wouldn't have worked, right? For the last 10 years or whatever.
10 years. It's been almost 10 years since the 6 and 6 Plus.
And what Apple has
7
proven
years
time
since the 10.
and time again is every single time they have a more expensive phone, it always sells the most. So,
in fact, it creates a spike in iPhone revenue when they do.
So I don't... Like, I get the idea. I understand how if you can't afford it, that really sucks. But, like, Apple's just going to do what makes it the most money. Same as pretty much any business that wants to make money.
That's true. And if it was something that caused the iPhone sales to have problems, they wouldn't do it, right? That's the counter argument, is if they did this and it led to less money, they would stop. But it doesn't. It leads to more money.
Nobody knows which models of iPhone sell more than Apple, right? And so they know.
Yep, they know.
While talking about the iPhone Slim, I would like to make a quick correction, as pointed out to me by our wonderful video editor, Chip. I attributed the story of the iPhone Slim to Jeff Poo. Jeff is an analyst at Haitong International Securities, who shared information about the design changes coming to the iPhone 17 lineup as a whole and corroborated the idea of a slim iPhone. But the report of the iPhone Slim from the information was written by Wayne Ma and Chiana Lu. So, Leo, sorry, I wanted to just correct myself there because it's important. Jason, you reviewed the Kobo Libra Color, which we were talking about a couple of weeks ago.
You like how color is spelled in the product name? I think it's Canada.
What? Oh, okay.
But
yeah, I didn't know that.
They're based in Canada.
Put some U's in it.
So it's great. My review is hilarious because when it's in caps, it's OUR, and then when I refer to the screen, I just say COLOR. And it's like, that's just how it is. That's how it's gonna be, folks.
I would like you to say about, kind of give a little bit of your thoughts, but my kind of takeaway from your review was essentially the color isn't as good as you'd want it to be, and it makes the screen overall worse.
Yeah, I mean, the screen is too small to read comics, although I did try. I read some Saga from a PDF. The color is like newsprinty. It's not super vibrant or anything because it's an e-ink screen. It's impressive that e-ink can do color. There's lots of things that are impressive about the technology. That e-ink can do color at all is really remarkable. But beyond that, like, it's the same as the previous one, but it costs $40 more. It adds color, which is not very useful in most cases. Color book covers, I guess. And if you do highlighting, you can color code them, which there might be people for whom this is valuable, but I'm somebody who reads books on my e-reader, and I don't understand. Like, $40 more without any other real improvements other than color is not great. They seem to have discontinued the black and white model, which they didn't do for some of their other models, but this one, the old Libra 2, is gone. So unless they're working on a black and white successor, it's really a bummer because now you have to spend $40 more, so it's that much more expensive. And then there's the big issue, which is that color screen is impressive, but it's backlight doesn't go as bright. It's not as bright. And the screen itself has a very fine texture, I would say, almost a pattern on the background that I think is an effect. Some of it might be ghosting. I also have noticed some ghosting where like things from the previous page are not refreshed properly. But some of it I think is just fundamental, which is on the black and white Kobo and on Kindles that are black and white. There's it was originally gray, so it was originally sort of like a black on a gray, and that tone has gotten lighter and the backlight makes it lighter. Well, this thing, there's a lot of contrast on the black and white model, and the color model with these little dots in a pattern that I think is an effect of the color screen and the color layer means the contrast is less. So it gets less bright and there's poorer contrast. And in bright reading environments, I notice this, right? Like I notice it doesn't get as bright. It's not as easy to read as the old model. So in the end, I think it's a disappointment. I despair about the current state of e-readers because Amazon seems to also have kind of voided their high-end button pressing Kindles, and they just have the lower end Kindles now. And there are not a lot of the ones that I thought were really good, like the Kindle Oasis, which was expensive but very good. That seems to be gone. The Kobo Libra 2, that is gone, and now you have to pay for the color model, or you can step up to the Sage, but that's much more expensive. Like I'm used to there being no excitement in the e-reader space, but now I feel like the e-reader space is aggressively getting worse. And so the Kobo Libra Color, I wouldn't choose it over a Libra 2, honestly, even though I think it is faster and the pages turn faster. And I think there's some nice things about it. But bottom line is it's not really appreciably better than the model it replaces. It's more expensive and the screen isn't as good. So what are we even doing here? So I'm feeling a lot of despair about the e-reader market right now.
Well, you have the savior of the daylight computer, right?
I've heard from a half a dozen people at least saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see what Jason says about the daylight computer." The daylight computer is basically an iPad with a screen that they say is like e-ink, which that's a red flag. E-ink. What does that mean?
I've seen people say it is a black and white LCD display with an amber backlight, not a regular backlight. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's not e-ink, right? It's not, because they would say if it was. And what also irks me is that some of the hype people around this product, because they've got a really good, I'll give them credit, a really good process of rolling this out where people are talking about it and coming to me
also,
and going, "Oh, Jason,
their website
e-ink or e-paper, whatever."
Beautiful. They
yeah.
have a very good looking website.
Their video is, I think it's a sandwich video. Is their launch video?
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it makes me roll my eyes because it's all about we're addicted to our screens and this is going to free you from your screens. I'm like, come on. But so these are the red flags. It's making a lot of claims about, we're addicted to our screens, which people like their screens.
I really can't stand the "we're addicted to our screens, here's another screen" argument.
Yeah, I know, but our screen is a different screen. It's like e-ink, but it is. So I got a lot of red flags. It might be an interesting product. It's iPad sized. It's black and white e-ink but not. It's got a stylus. You can attach a keyboard. It runs Android, but they've customized it. Then again, I reviewed a TCL tablet that I got mostly because they put a matte display protector on it with some and it had some tweaks of Android where you could put it in a black and white mode where it looked remarkably like a Kindle, except it was an Android tablet. So it's still full on refresh rate. And they say this one's got a 60 hertz refresh rate and all that. It's interesting. But this is a product in the category of the Remarkable or something, or that word processor that uses an e-ink screen so that you can just focus on your writing. That's the market that strikes me. And there's a lot of woo-woo kind of we're addicted to our screen stuff in that marketing, in that category. And this strikes me as being where it is targeted, which doesn't really interest me at all. And the truth is that I'm interested I cover e-readers not because it's an important market that I need to cover as part of my business and my brand. Yeah. I cover them because I care and nobody else seems to care, or, very few other people seem to care, but I care. So I write about it. This product is not in a category that I care about. My only real interest in it is that I have raised an eyebrow at some of their marketing, and I can't wait for people who are not getting a sneak peek from the company to actually find out what it is and how it really works, because I would love to know the choices they've made to allow them to make the claims they're making. But for me, there's zero interest. I would rather use an iPad. And as an e-reader, I would rather use a Kindle or a Kobo or a Books Palma or whatever, right? Like any of the above, but not.
I'm interested. I would love to try the product. Like, I would love them to send me one. I actually reached out to them and said I would like to try one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to spend the $700.
Gruber bought one apparently. Well, the other thing is that I'm also not going to buy one.
Yeah.
I think there is, in addition to, there is a marking up PDFs market, right? This is one of the things that frustrates me about the e-reader market is they keep getting bigger and they keep adding pens, and I don't care. But I
also,
understand.
Me and Gray were talking about this on Cortex. Like, they're doing it, but it's still not good enough. Like, they're making the screens bigger, they're adding pens, but getting PDFs on a lot of these devices is still very complicated and like not as easy as putting them on an iPad.
Right. Advantage of the Kobo is it supports Google Drive and Dropbox now, which is kind of nice. And it's got a pen apparently, but I don't want it and I don't care. Right. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I understand what's happening here, which is the e-reader market itself is not very big, and so they are trying to find other markets, and people marking up documents and now the pen technology is such that you can integrate that into your product and build something that potentially has another market to it. Now, I think the truth is, for marking up documents with a pen, you probably want a much larger screen than the kind of screen that I want. And this product has it, and that's one way where this product might be interesting. You and I both,
and it runs Android, which is great, right?
And it runs Android.
That's the way to do this.
We know David Sparks, like David in his attorney job, especially. Like, one of the things that like a lot of attorneys and other people do lots of paperwork, they use the iPad to do this. Here's the other thing, though. Again, I will say is yes, very impressive, long battery life. Apparently, black and white screen, doesn't have the big backlight shining in your eyes. Okay, great. I can see why this might be an interesting use case. Although, again, at that point, I think, or you could just use an iPad and an Apple Pencil. But hey, interesting idea, but not anything I would consider as an e-reader. It's a totally different category of product that no, thank you.
Next week, it's the draft, the WWDC draft. We're here already.
How?
It's kind of unbelievable. Like, looking at my next couple of weeks, like, oh yeah, here we go. It's ramping up now. WWDC is just around the corner. So next week on the show, we're going to be drafting. Could be the biggest draft ever. We're actually going to talk about it in Upgrade Plus. So go to getupgradeplus.com if you haven't signed up already. Get longer ad-free episodes of the show. Thank you to everybody that has. We really appreciate you. But we're actually going to talk about the categories because this one's different. Obviously, with the introduction of AI and stuff like that, I think we're going to have to, and Vision OS, we're going to have to talk about how we're going to set our categories and set our picks. And usually me and Jason do this in a frenzy in Slack, but instead today I thought, why not talk about it in Upgrade Plus? This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, you can stand out from the crowd with a beautiful website, engage directly with your audience, and sell your products, services, or even the content that you create, because Squarespace has everything you need all in one place, all on your terms. Squarespace's Blueprint AI and SEO optimization tools make it so easy to get started and get found. You can start a completely personalized website with their new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. Choose from professionally curated layout and styling options to build a unique online presence from the ground up, tailored to your brand or business, optimized for every device and easier than ever before. Then you can launch your website and get discovered fast with integrated, optimized SEO tools so you show up more often to more people and grow the way you want. I love how easy it is to design, a website with Squarespace. They have a system called Fluid Engine, which lets you customize everything you could wish. It is their next-generation website design editing system. It has never been easier for anyone to unlock their creativity with Fluid Engine. You just start from a good starting point, one of their beautiful templates, and you can customize every detail with a reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. I know what I want when I want to put a website together, but I don't know how to do it, and that's what I love about Squarespace is they take care of all the hard stuff, so I can just choose the fonts that I like, choose the colors that I like, choose the layout that I like, and drop in all of the functionality that I might need. You can also integrate with Squarespace's flexible payments options. You can make checkout seamless for your customers with simple but powerful payment tools. Accepting credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay is super easy, and in eligible countries, you can also offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. So, go right now to squarespace.com and sign up for a free trial. When you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/upgrade and you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That is squarespace.com/upgrade. When you decide to sign up, you'll get that 10% off your first purchase and show your support for the show. Our thanks to Squarespace for their support of this show and all of Relay FM. Rumor Roundup time. It's that time again, partner. So, got a bunch of stuff for you. I'm going to start with a report from Mark Gurman with some details about WWDC announcements in his Power On newsletter. So, got a few things here, focus in a couple of areas, starting with AI in Apple's platforms, mostly in iOS 18 and macOS 18 is where... 15, yep. They should make the numbers the same, I think.
They should.
I think they should do that. All the other platforms, right? It's the same. They like tvOS will be tvOS 18. So why is macOS 15? Like let's just make it 18. Because really, technically, macOS is on to like version 50 or something.
Yeah,
right?
it's because the year that they went to iOS 11. And I said Spinal Tap would appear at WWDC. They said, no, we're just going to keep it at 10, when that was the perfect year to make it macOS 11. And because of that, we're now in this ridiculous situation where they waited 4 years, and it's just, come on, for 3 years. So, yeah.
So Apple will have a system on devices that will decide if a task needs to be completed on device or in the cloud, depending on the complexity of it. A quote from Mark Gurman: most of the on-device features will be supported by chips released in the last year or so. The cloud component will be powered by M2 Ultra chips located in data centers. I had a thought this morning that made me upset. I don't want to upgrade my MacBook Air, my M2 MacBook Air. I don't want to do that. I really hope I don't have to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it would... there may be some consternation if the Mac... Like, I understand if they say only iPhone 15 Pro and later gets this, and otherwise it's in the cloud. Like, I would understand that. And there's an Apple Watch better performance mention that he has here, and I thought, well, that's going to be for the on-device engine, which only runs on the Series 9 and the Ultra 2, right? I see it. Like, okay, great. But yeah, if they say, oh, this can't run locally on an M1 or M2 Mac, there may be rioting in the streets.
Yeah. I imagine Stage Manager all over again.
Yeah.
Siri will be upgraded with, quote, more natural sounding interactions with better performance on Apple Watch for completing tasks that are focused on that platform as well.
We spent some time on this last week. I think I think there are two problems with Siri. We talk about the problems with Siri. I think there are two problems with Siri when people have problems with Siri. One of them is...
Are you just trying to get everyone's devices to go up? Why are you saying it so many times?
Okay, well, I mean, whatever. Turn off. Well, Mike, the fact is everybody's turned it off. So,
just real quick, can I just jump
I just
in
said,
one
hey,
second
watch
while
out.
you said that? I'm sorry. Adina was watching Loot on Apple TV, and someone said Siri, and it set her phone off.
Oh man.
It's like
I guess
the product integrations are ruining people's experiences.
Yeah, you cannot have the hey and it goes off too. Well, my dog is named the two vowel sounds of the trigger phrase. So I've had that happen a lot.
Right.
Anyway, here are the two problems with that device that I set off 10 times in the last 2 minutes. one problem is the conversational problem, right? It's that you have to code your question and word it in the right way. It's really uncomfortable to do sometimes, and if it doesn't understand it or it gets it wrong, it just fires off some sort of ridiculous thing, and then you can't really get it back. You kind of have to start again, and it's very frustrating. So something like an LLM that would be better at understanding your context and being able to answer follow-up questions and being able to focus and correct things and have a conversation with you that gets to the result of what it needs, to give you the result that you want. Great. Like that's one part of it. And then the other part of it is bad results, right? Which is, I think, part of the first part, but also has to do with the data sources and the fact that it punts things to the web too often, right? And things like, or can't answer it on a HomePod because you got to have your phone there, right? So I feel like the way that this report is phrased, I read that as being that they're trying to make the conversation with the agent better, which is great.
Yep.
That leaves us with the other part, which is, first off, a question, which is, if the agent better understands you and what you want, are the data sources in Siri okay? Are they good enough if the agent is more intelligent? Maybe, but I still think that there are those things where it's like, oh, I need to look on the web for this. And that that's the part two. And is that where partners with other LLMs come in? And is it, again, there's the mystery of LLM integration, which, would see...
No, you can say... I wasn't saying you couldn't say it. It was just funny to me that you said it like 5 times in a row. Yeah,
I'm just trying to beat it into submission. Yeah. Would Siri be able to use some of those LLMs as a data source and say, hey, I am now asking you to give me this thing, but you know who I am, right? And you know what I want, right? And then have it come back with something that it parses and says, I talked to my friend GPT and it says this. Would that be better? So, I mean, we'll see how the story of how they choose to implement this. But I still get a little bit of the willies that we're going to get a Siri that we're going to be like, finally they fix Siri, and then we're going to look at what they do and we're going to go, did you fix it? Really?
Mark says Xcode will get AI enhancements. This is what we were all thinking might have happened last year, right?
This is the Copilot thing, which is that programmers have, and I mean, I've done this with Python scripts. Like, you look at code repositories and samples of code and how things do things, and instead of finding a web, okay, let's just say it. Instead of going to Stack Overflow and finding the 3 questions that seem to be your question and the answers and trying to parse which one actually works and makes sense for you, and there's a jerk in the comments who says, no, you did it wrong, and then this one gets upvotes and all of that, it turns out that an AI parsing all of those and just giving you the answer can be more efficient. Maybe not more effective, but often more effective. And so having more of those tools in the development tools totally makes sense because it's kind of a proven concept. This can be helpful for programmers.
AI generated emoji. So based on conversations that you're having, the system may be able to create new emoji that do not exist that you could use.
Yeah.
Now, my expectation is this is not emoji. These are stickers. We've been here before.
Yes, although I did have that moment because you and I both know Jeremy Burge, Emojipedia Emeritus.
Yep.
And so we know a lot of things about emojis that most people don't know, including the fact that many emojis are actually put together these days with combinations of Unicode code points. So instead of saying there's a code number for firefighter male and a code number for firefighter female and a code number for firefighter neutral gender, instead there's a code for firefighter and then you follow it with a male symbol or a female symbol or a neutral symbol, or maybe the firefighter is neutral by default and you modify it, but regardless, that a lot of emoji are built that way. So you end up with, I think the lime emoji is literally the lemon followed by green square.
Yeah.
And it turns into that. So I did have a moment where I thought, would they do that? would they just sort of like say, what are all the other ways I can combine emojis and build art for them and then just like do it that way? But I think you're right. Probably it's stickers.
I'm
Probably
basing
they've
this
got an
on
emoji
all of
generator.
Apple's look at this emoji we made. Started with Memoji, then like just stickers in general. Like
Exactly.
they've always added them as stickers, and of course now you have the emoji as stickers thing anyway. As of iOS 17, I can imagine that it will create things that look like emoji, but put them in your
that
sticker
are images.
Yeah.
Right, because again, they're not going to be able to send them as actual emoji because
it wouldn't work.
Actual emoji don't exist.
Yeah,
exactly.
and also if you were sending that to a different platform or in a different app, like
or
it's going
a
to break.
previous version of the OS. Yeah.
So it will just there'll be stickers, I reckon. There will be smart recaps of notifications, messages, web pages, notes, and other types of content. So you can ask the platform like, "Hey, what was that message?" or "Catch me up," that kind of thing. I expect. Mark Gurman says that Apple will not have a chatbot of its own. It will rely on partnerships. This is not stated by Gurman or really anyone yet as to how exactly this will work. Like, is it like what you were saying earlier that Siri will go and ask, or is it that the ChatGPT app is installed on your phone, or is or you just get thrown to a UI? Who knows?
This is what I was thinking. Is I actually even wonder if it might be something you wouldn't necessarily need partnerships, but like if it's integrated with a system, there could be. It's in Spotlight or Siri will ask. I was thinking the other way you could do this is have an API and because one of the things that some people want is to like trigger this from other places. So maybe you could even build an API that's like if you offer a chatbot service, you do this API and then people can choose their default chatbot, and we built some UI around it. But it's a real question. It's an interesting idea of how do they deeply integrate this, because the chatbots are on iOS now. They're just not super integrated. They're just apps. But how does Apple choose to integrate them if it chooses to grant them some special privileges that because they're going up against Android where Gemini is going to be deeply integrated. So that's the challenge that they've got, is how do we provide users with whatever it is that they want from these things, so that we don't look like we're behind Google in terms of the integration.
Well, I mean, as well, like since our last show, Microsoft showed up a bunch of stuff of their own, which is very interesting. The new devices
throughout
and Windows that they're using, and the last thing that is mentioned by Mark Gurman is that these AI features may be labeled as a preview, either up until release or post release. As the more we're finding out, the more we're getting these little reports, and then the more we're seeing from Apple's competitors, the more I'm like, oh boy, I don't think this is going to go very well. I remain hopeful that there's stuff that we haven't seen and the implementations may be really cool, but Apple's competitors are going very hard on this, and I'm not sure how they're going to stack up.
Well, think about how long it takes to build these things. Longer than a few months. And the Gurman report is that Apple was caught flat-footed and had to change direction last year. So if we look at the announcements at WWDC and are like, there's something there, but they're still not at the level of what Google's doing in Android and what Microsoft is doing in Windows. I don't think that that's an oh boy, they blew it now. I think that's more like we now can see the fact that they were caught flat-footed a year ago because of the catch-up time. So like it's like even Apple can't go, like Microsoft and Google had such a head start because they took this more seriously. Microsoft were with OpenAI and Google with its own stuff. And then Apple was like, oh, geez, okay, we need to do this now. And 9 months later, I would not be surprised if it's the best they could do in 9 months, but they're not going to be able to necessarily match, if they were truly caught flat-footed, what Microsoft and Google have been doing, because Microsoft and Google were not caught flat-footed. They have been at a run already, and that means Apple will be it will expose how far behind Apple was last year, right? Is what I'm saying. And that is something we don't know for sure, but the reports suggest that they are. And up to now we've been like, well, is Apple behind? Because there's nothing really out there. But when you see how Gemini is integrated with Android, and you see what Microsoft is doing with it with Copilot, this summer it may become apparently clear exactly how far behind Apple is. And then, I think, can they catch up? Sure, I think they can. But that's, I think, what we're going to learn this summer is how slow did Apple get off the blocks when they realized that they needed to actually integrate this everywhere like their competitors.
Mark Gurman also says that some of the home screen improvements that we'll see is the free placements of apps and widgets, which we'd heard before, and the ability for a user to change the color of app icons.
Developers will probably hate this, but this is the aesthetic thing where, they're already doing this. Like I saw somebody say, I hate this. And then somebody else said, yeah, but they're already doing it, right? Because we know that people have all sorts of ways of building. You build a shortcut to an app that uses a custom icon, and then you can have all of your icons be green or all of your icons be pink or have them color-coded. I love the example, the Bloombergiest of examples, which is finance apps can all be green like money. I'm like, whoa, yes. Whoa, you're letting your monocle and top hat slip a little bit there, Mr. Bloomberg.
Let me give you a patented Mike Hurley guarantee on this one.
Okay.
This will be an API, and only independent developers will opt in. That is what that's what I think is going to happen now.
Oh, the developers are going to have to opt in to allow customization of their icons. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's well, put that on the draft.
I know Google did it with Material U. That's great. That's fine. I don't think that's how. I think it will be different. I think that this is how Apple will do it. Because I just can't imagine a scenario. Because I also don't think that it really makes any sense. Like a brand chooses its colors, right? Mm-hmm. And then they're just like, oh, forget it. Like, what if in Apple Podcasts they were like, opt in and people could change the look of your show artwork? It's like, no, I don't want people to do that. Yeah. We have chosen how we want our show artwork to look.
Exactly. So here is my counter prediction. I love a counter prediction.
Go for it.
Here it is. What they're going to do is they're going to have one of those sessions, and I love these sessions. I watch these videos. I love them, where they're like, it's the videos that are changes in emoji and changes in how icons work and changes in widget design. I love those design. They're design sessions where it's like technical, but it's also design. I bet that they will have a new approach to app icons that will say, users can choose, my guess is choose from a palette of colors, and that you as a developer can supply alternate icons for each palette or designate a layer of your icon as customizable and that the system will change that layer based on the palette.
That's, that makes sense actually, where it's like, oh, by the way, this isn't a choice.
But right? I think you're right that it's not going to be like, would you like us to just run a filter on the Slack icon to turn it into a different color? I don't think they will go that far, but it'll be more like, hey, colorful icons, everybody's getting in the game. Here's how you participate. And it's either you can meticulously choose every single icon, or you can do this thing where you're like, here's this layer, the letter in our logo can be any color, right? And it's like, okay, great, wonderful.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
So, maybe.
It's time to lawyer up.
Clunk, clunk.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
It's Law and Order kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Dun dun. Mm-hmm. That's fun. That's fun. I like the sound effects that go with every chapter. I had a friend text me the other day and say, "Oh, I was listening to Upgrade. I haven't listened in a while," and there's a lot of segments. Not yep. Yeah. That's how we do
verticals.
It. That's
how verticals. We do it. We've been doing it since the beginning, though.
Yep.
The verticals. We kind of went away from it a little bit. Now we got more. Now we got more verticals. We're back with the verticals.
I love structure. I love structure in my podcasts. Makes them easy.
In the world of technology, there are two parties: the regulators and Apple. This is their story. Clunk, clunk.
Dun, dun. Bloomberg profiled the developers of the Alt Store and their journey so far. In this article, it mentions that Alt Store PAL has already passed 100,000 downloads in the EU.
Yeah, this is a fun story.
Yep.
If you've got access to Bloomberg, I highly recommend it. Mr. Bloomberg with his top hat and his monocle. It is great. The thing I love about it the most is that Riley Testoot and his business partner, they're like in their mid to late 20s. In order to establish their European branch and do their work and develop their app, they've just been living in Europe for a while and like going Airbnbs in various places. They're in Amsterdam, they're in Copenhagen, they're in Dublin. They're like, and there's literally a quote in the story that's like, "I want to go home,"
Yeah.
but they want to do this. It's just a fun look into all the effort that is required to try and make this happen. And it's got that really nice moment where they're about ready to launch, and then Apple says, "Oh, Delta emulators can just be in the store," and they're like, "Ah," which really hits home about how much that was a move to cut them off at the knees from launching their thing by putting it in the regular app store. But they did it. They're like, okay, we'll put it in the app store. And then, of course, it goes to number one. Yeah, it's a good story. It's a really good story. But I just like the idea that they want to go home, but they can't because they got to keep doing things in Europe.
Shane is the name of Riley's business
Shane,
partner.
They need to. I think they just need to hire they probably don't have they need to hire a part-time like European beard, right? Like,
I mean, it's possible, right? Like maybe, who knows what they may have actually ended up having to do, or will end up having to do.
But you can't test this stuff outside of Europe. Is the thing, because your phones are then. I mean, I guess. Huh. Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Without shuttling back and forth, you can't actually. My understanding is that a lot of this stuff is not testable outside of Europe if you're a developer. So, because Apple's not going to make it easy. Big surprise. That's the other thing that I really got out of it. And then there's another note you're about to mention, which is it's very clear too that this is Apple making it as difficult as possible every step of the way, because this is your malicious compliance, right? Which is they'll do it, but they're not going to be happy and they're not going to make it easy.
On Mastodon, Riley Testoot has said that the notarization process from Apple is taking multiple weeks, even though Apple had originally said they could expect notarization to happen within a few hours. Yeah. That's not good. This is not good. This is not good.
Yeah.
I don't like
I think Riley
this.
suggested that if you don't like this, contact the European Commission, which is like, I
mean,
you
should. People should do it, and I hope that they're making a complaint too, because this isn't right.
I was listening to last week's Accidental Tech podcast, and they had a conversation about emulators and not things we've talked about like not having a just-in-time compiler be allowed and all that stuff. And it just struck me again that the real issue here is, if I have to like completely simplify it, is it's a different thing being a developer if all you can do is do all of your work for a particular platform, put it in front of the platform's council of elders, and have them say yes or no. And if they say no, you have zero recourse, right? Like if you say no, your thing is dead because it doesn't run anywhere else. It's built for that platform, and they won't tell you up front whether you can have it. And I mean, I guess the story was that Riley talked to somebody at Apple, probably in developer relations, who said, no problem, that'll be great. And then he submitted Delta, and they're like, no, you can't do this. So, why? Because we say so. Okay, which is the same with that clip utility, which the Bloomberg article says. Why is this not allowed? Because Apple says so. And then Apple's response is something like, oh, Apple totally allows clipboard managers to protect the privacy of the user, by which they mean don't work. And this is the core frustration that goes to all of this, which is all of this would be solved. All of this would be solved if there was a fallback like there is on the Mac, where the default is everything's locked up tight. Everything comes through the App Store. That's your only option. But there is a secondary world where you can turn on and get all of the scare dialogues, and apps can live there too, like on the Mac. And Apple doesn't want to do that. But like when I was thinking about Riley's Delta story, I thought, oh, wow, the fact is today, if you get rejected with your app that you built on iOS, Apple says no. Well, you can't release that app, except in Europe, where you totally can. And I thought, well, see, See, there's a little glimmer there of what this is. And I know there are lots of issues and a lot of people have strong opinions about this. But I think fundamentally that's what this is about, is Apple, like, why invest in developing for this platform if Apple can capriciously kick you out at any point? And without recourse, right? Again, it's not. I have no problem with Apple saying no. We don't want this kind of app in our store. Great. We don't want it in our default platform because of security reasons. It's locked down. Fine. But when there's no alternative, and in the EU there is now, so that's good. But I don't like the idea that yes. Oh well, we have this. This is actually was the huge fear about the huge fear when they did notarization on the Mac, was that Apple would use it as a de facto app approval system. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, notarization on the Mac has actually been very smooth. But what they said in the EU about notarization for iOS apps that were going outside the App Store was, well, it's going to be more intensive of a process, which I can see the why, right? Like, it's not fundamentally unreasonable. However, multiple weeks per app is completely unreasonable.
Yep. The SetApp mobile app marketplace has entered invite-only beta as they prepare to launch their subscription model offering this summer. The Verge got a look at it and wrote a big piece about it. At least at launch, SetApp have said that they will not be charging for their app marketplace. They're going to be paying the CTF for marketplace installs themselves, so like the 50 cents that you need to install the app marketplace, SetApp will just pay that. They told The Verge that they don't expect app developers to pass the 1 million install threshold for the CTF. Like, it's just not something they're expecting is going to happen very often, if at all. And I'm sure that they're using their own data of what SetApp on the Mac, and they have like a version on iOS, which I'm not 100% sure exactly how that works. Like, I know it does work. I know
existing apps and there's coupons or
something. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know how they get through that, but they do. MacPaw, who makes SetApp, have confirmed that there will be over 30 apps available when the open beta launches in a little bit in the summer. There's like 17
So this is
apps
you pay for a subscription to SetApp like you do now. You pay for a subscription to the SetApp app marketplace, and all the apps in it are free at that point, right? You buy them through your subscription instead.
Yep. And we may soon learn if and how all of this work with the DMA will scale to other countries. 9to5Mac is reporting that Apple may soon need to offer alternative app marketplaces in Japan. Legislation is currently being debated in Parliament that could result in a similar set of requirements to the DMA. Basically, not default app stores. There should be other payment options, etc., etc.
Yeah. It is simultaneously DMA providing a roadmap for other. I mean, we said this was going to happen. A roadmap for other regions, other regulators to do what they do.
It's easy
and then
now,
more
right?
than that. Well, and more than that, you know what Apple's built, right?
Yeah.
So if you build something that more or less follows what's going on in Europe, Apple doesn't really have a leg to stand on in terms of pleading, like, oh no, it will take us time to do this. It's like, well, you already built it, so build it for us now. And that was always the danger.
That is the thing about what that like the EU should be congratulated for, is that they were able, for whatever reason, to be able to put the right amount of pressure on Apple to make them do it. And Google and right? And all the other companies that the DMA will or will not affect. Like, that, it is quite impressive that they were able to do it.
Yeah, and now that Apple has built, because remember, these rumors, I mean, this stuff was discussed more than a year ago. That they were going to do this, and it was going to take until the following year, which is now. But the beauty of it is the EU made them build it, made them spend a big part of the iOS development cycle on these features, and now they exist. And now other regions can just say, "I want that." And that's always been Apple's greatest danger, is that once the features have been implemented, it's a lot easier for everybody else to just say, "Yeah, give me that. I want that."
The marketplace cat is out of the bag.
Meow.
Apple's also been lawyering up.
Is it going to be a new segment, Marketplace Cat?
No, I don't think
new vertical?
so. Apple's also been lawyering up. They're going to challenge the 1.8 billion euro fine that the EU wants it to pay for anti-competitive actions against music streaming services like Spotify. They're filing a lawsuit at the EU General Court. This one was obvious that they were going to do this because that is a whopping fine. And Apple has also filed a pre-motion letter to ask for dismissal of the U.S. Department of Justice's antitrust case against them. Apple is saying that the market share definition is wrong, that they do not have monopoly power, and they have not harmed consumers. Basically, what are the three things for antitrust? They're not doing any of them. This is all expected as part of the process that we're going to go through. You know, when we were talking about this is going to take multiple years, this is part of why. It's like it was obvious that this would happen. There will be many months of back and forth now to see if it will or not be dismissed. We'll find out later on this year or early next year as to whether a dismissal will work for Apple or not. If it doesn't, the trial stuff begins.
Yeah. And that's why we ordered Art for Lawyer Up.
Because this is a multi-year segment in our segmented show.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by Vitally. Customer success teams are facing a problem. How do they connect customer data back to work? Vitally changes that. It is a new kind of customer success platform, an all-in-one collaborative workspace that combines your customer data with all the capabilities you expect from today's project management and work platforms. Because it's designed for today's customer success teams, that is why Vitally operates with unparalleled efficiency, improves net revenue retention, and delivers best-in-class customer experiences. It's the solution to helping your customer success teams keep a better pulse on your customers, which maximizes productivity, visibility, and collaboration so you can boost your bottom line by driving more revenue per customer with the help of Vitally. And if you take a qualified demo of Vitally, you'll get a free pair of AirPods Pro. So if you're a customer success decision maker, actively seeking CS solutions, working at a B2B software as a service company with 50 to 1,000 employees, and you're willing to explore changing customer success platforms, if you have one in place, schedule your call by visiting vitally.io/upgrade and get that free pair of AirPods Pro. That is vitally.io, vitally.io/upgrade for a free pair of AirPods Pro when you schedule a qualified meeting. Our thanks to Vitally for their support of this show and Relay FM. I want to do a Vision Pro check-in with you, Jason. How often are you using your Vision Pro?
Varies widely. There was a span of about a week and a half where I didn't use it at all, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, Vision Pro, let's get back." And then and got it started back up again. But I did actually have, I'd say it's maybe a couple of days a week. I had there's some work going on our house. And I work at our house, so it's extremely disruptive, extremely disruptive to my work. And at one point I needed to write, I think it was a Macworld column, and I just I had to blot out the world, and I got the Bluetooth keyboard, and I actually sat in the bedroom on the bed with my headphones in, my AirPods, noise canceling, music playing for some of it, and wrote that whole article on the Vision Pro, which I hadn't done in maybe a month. And it was really great. I was reminded, and then when I was done, I was like, I'm just going to stay in here for a little while and look at some stuff and all of that and be reminded about it. I think the challenge with Vision Pro right now for me is I need more reasons to put it on.
Yes.
I need more kind of things. And this is the challenge with the platform right now is it needs more juice. It needs more content. It needs more reasons to use it. It needs more features. And it's fine, right? Like, I get it. It is a new platform that's really just kind of starting, but that's sort of where I am with it. Is if there's new content, I will go watch it. And if there's a very particular thing where I want to kind of block out the world, I will use it. But also, it's a little of that is artificial. Like the iPad Pro took up all of my bandwidth for a couple of weeks, where I just used the iPad Pro all the time. And anytime I would be like, well, I could do this on the, like I was going to watch something on the Vision Pro, and then I thought I got to watch this on the OLED screen on the iPad Pro because I need that as another data point. I need more video that I'm watching on the iPad Pro. So some of it's that. How are you doing with yours?
I use mine once or twice a week for a few hours at a time usually, and I, similarly to you, I use it more when there's a thing that gets me there, and then I'll use it for a long period of time, right?
Yes.
And so,
100%.
For me, I've watched every episode of X-Men 97 on the Vision Pro. So every Wednesday, I was sitting down watching an episode for 30 minutes and then using it for like another hour, an hour and a half. Like, because when I'm in the Vision Pro, I just want to spend time in it. Like, I love, I say, it's the perfect noodling computer. I'm like over here checking this message. I'm over here looking at this. Like, I really like it. Like, imagine how, like, for a lot of people, I expect you may be similar to me. If you when you're on an iPad, you're kind of like spending some time on it. You're like checking what's on this app, what's on that app, what's in my RSS. Like, that's how I love to use the Vision Pro. It's like the ultimate iPad in that way, and I find it very engaging. Like, the operating system looks really great. Like, it's kind of general procrastinating, or as I like to call work-crastinating. Like, you're doing little jobs.
It's the stuff I would be doing anyway, but I'm doing it here instead of there.
And it's fantastic for that.
I agree 100% with your perception, which is I need a reason to put it on, but once I put it on, I'm like, oh, yeah, well, while I'm here, I'm going to do this thing and that thing and all that because it's really fun. But you do need, it's enough of a leap where, like, I don't have it, like, hanging out where I'm just going to flip this thing right on. It's more like, am I going to use the Vision Pro? Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get set somewhere with it, and I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to get it all hooked up, and I'm going to be ready to go. And once I'm over that hump, I'm like, I don't want to leave, honestly, for some period of time. I'm
and
like,
similarly
can I
for
stay
me,
in here?
if I have to write something longer than an email, I'm putting the Vision Pro on because I find it to be really helpful for helping me stay focused. Just because it's so visually engaging and like audio engaging to use. So, but there is new content. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk today. Is there's three things content wise, which for the Vision Pro is like, it's like ice water in the desert right now. So the first thing, I saw Sigmund Judge, who's the host of Magic Rays of Light on Mac Stories, on Mastodon, said that the Experience Immersive trailer had been updated. So this is like the sizzle reel. And it's all new. There's so much stuff that's in this now. So they have more sports stuff. So there is a golf shot. There is content from the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And the NBA All-Star Game.
Wow.
In this now. There's more soccer. There's more human interest stuff. There's like hot air balloons, and there's people wild swimming, and there's more wildlife content. There's so much more stuff. It's like a new sizzle reel. It seems like they're getting ready for a bit of a relaunch, maybe to more people. Like, there's a ton of content that is not available in full form, right? So, like, the original immersive trailer, I think everything that was in there, essentially, except some of the sports stuff, but they all came out in the episode ones of each of those, like, different immersive content. But there was a ton of stuff in this one that isn't available anywhere else.
Nice.
Like, you can't, like, one of the NBA All-Star shots, you're at courtside, which is what people wanted, right? You're sitting at courtside, and you can look around, and you're watching them. And what's really great is this one shot where someone misses a pass, and the ball hits the camera, and, like, it cuts at that moment, but it's, like, so perfect. It just so happened that the ball hit the camera.
I haven't seen this. This is great.
This is all new. Go watch it. It's really great. They also released the second episode of the Adventure series. So the Adventure series, the first episode was the Highlining.
The Fjords, the first one, yeah.
This one is of a parkour group in Paris. Interesting and terrifying. Because you're up there watching these guys make their jumps, and it's really well done. I liked this more than the Highlining one. It's really, really good. I was like, my heart was pounding watching it. It was very, very good. But it's not all Apple. There's also, this was announced a couple of weeks ago, the trailer is out now. What If? It's a Marvel experience. ILM Interactive and Marvel worked together to produce this. So me and you have both actually experienced this. We've both are on the beta. We can only talk about the intro of it right now. So very, very early impressions. We'll actually maybe talk more about it next week.
I think so.
So it is. So What If is an animated series on Disney Plus, which is based on a comic series where it's basically what if you took things that happened in the Marvel timeline and did them in another direction. So, like, what if Peggy Carter became Captain Britain rather than Steve Rogers becoming Captain America? Like, that's one of the big stories in the What If show, for example. This is a part movie, part you're involved in it. You can watch the trailer. You put the trailer and some impressions on 6 colors. Like, this is exactly the kind of thing that we were hoping for. Like, it's fun. The fidelity is fantastic. You're using hand tracking to like make spells, right? Like you're casting like Doctor Strange like spells. It's really cool.
Yeah, Wong appears in the intro and basically says, here are some hand gestures, and there's and there's like a guide, but it's an in-universe guide. It's like the Hand of Agamotto is going to show you how to do this gesture to do a teleport and this gesture. And that's a super clever way of integrating the hand tracking that Vision Pro can do in order to make it feel more immersive. I love that they call it an immersive experience, because I was trying to explain this to somebody and I said, well, they don't want to call it a game
because it's not very long.
It's
not full.
Well, it's only about an hour long, and I think that they've said that too. But like an hour long is like the longest piece of immersive content that's been on the Vision Pro. So there's that, right? Like, but it's interactive. I wouldn't call it a game because it's not a game. I don't want to go too far, but I don't think you can die. I think you just play the game, or you play the experience, but for things to happen, you have to do things, right? It's interactive. That's the thing that it is. Also, it's a combination of things, right? Some of it is spatial video. It's 3D video. Some of it is interaction in your augmented reality space. Some of it is virtual reality environments. It's using all of those different pieces. So to call it, I know it feels silly to call it an immersive experience, but I don't know what else you would call it because it is all of those things
that you're in. That's essentially it's like a cartoon episode of What If.
Sometimes you're watching it through like a portal. Sometimes you're in it. And some things have to happen because you do them, and the story progresses, and there are twists and turns, and there are choices that need to be made, and like, so it is interactive. But I don't want to overhype it and say like it's totally a what if game, because it's not a game. But it is interactive and immersive. And it's a really interesting experiment, and again, it's like an hour, so it's actually it's got a. If you think of it as a game, you'll think, oh, it's really short. But if you think of it as versus like one of these immersive videos that they've been doing, or something like an app like Encounter Dinosaurs, and this is an app too, it's the most I think that they've done.
It feels like someone at Disney, or at Marvel, like during the process of them getting to see it initially, was like, I have a really cool idea. Right, because the Doctor Strange kind of idea, the casting spells of your hands, obviously fits so well for this. So we'll talk about it more next week, because we can't really talk about the full experience more than just the intro part, which is what we're talking about right now.
And it's going to be free. So if you got a Vision Pro on Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday, you can get it.
Yeah, so the 30th.
Get it.
And I just want to say, getting embargo access to anything Marvel property is like dream come true for me. So loved it. You had a note too in our Vision Pro segment today called "Selling the Vision Pro." Have you sold your Vision Pro, Jason? What is that?
No. I have talked to some of my people I know who work in Apple retail, and it sounds like there's been, at least semi-officially, some recalibration in how they approach selling the Vision Pro in retail. I think it's interesting and I think it's good, but it sounds like, okay, remember when this all started? Apple did its most Apple thing, which is like, oh, we're going to bring everybody to Cupertino, and we're going to have them all learn this script, and they're going to need to say it word for word. And it's a half-hour experience that involves, like, you're going to have to get your eyes scanned, and then the things are going to be assembled in the back and brought to you, and then you're going to be stepped through by a person, a 30-minute experience and all of that. And I think they've done that now, right? Like, they've literally, everybody who wants to see that has seen it. And I think that it's interesting because retail is very sales focused in a way that maybe they weren't in the early days with Ron Johnson, where they were sort of like just the extrusion of Apple as a an entity and a brand in your community, and they're like, it's a place for you to go, and like it's not a hard sell place. You can just come and use the computers, and they've transitioned into a much more of a everybody who works in retail is motivated by sales, I would say, to some degree or another. But what I'm hearing is that a lot of the feedback that they've gotten is from people who, when they're offered a Vision Pro experience, say it's going to be 30 minutes, and they're like, I don't have that kind of time. And of course they don't. You're just somebody in a mall, you're walking by, you're like, oh yeah, I have heard about the Vision Pro. Can you show it to me? And they're like, yeah, it'll take about half an hour. And you're like, nope. So my understanding is that there's been a little bit of a recalibration, which is sort of like, if you can get them in it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, great, do it. And maybe we'll keep one here in the drawer that is just like a stock, no special lenses. And if somebody comes in and they don't need an adjustment, you just pull it out and put it on, right? You don't make them wait. And so I was thinking about this, and it's like, well, what is the goal of the Vision Pro in the Apple retail store? And the reason I mentioned the earlier days where it wasn't all about sales is, if I were running the zoo, I would do this. I would make it much easier to get that thing on people's faces because, first off, as a reviewer, I can say, I don't recommend the Vision Pro for people. Like, I don't. It costs too much, and there's not enough there. The people who should use it are people like us, people like developers, and people who really want to be on the cutting edge and don't mind that it costs $3,500. It's fine. They're happy to pay that to get a taste of the future. That's fine. But for everybody else, like, it's kind of a development platform and a future thing, and it's not ready yet. So if I'm thinking about Apple retail, I'm like, we're not going to sell a lot of these. And I'm sure that that's what they found, is that they don't sell a lot of them, and that the demo doesn't really even sell a lot of them. So I would say, what is our goal with Vision Pro and Apple retail? And I would take a page from the earlier days of Apple retail. I would say, people coming into Apple retail who are curious about the Vision Pro, let's make it as easy as possible for them to explore it as long as they want, up to the full half hour. Mm-hmm. And if all I'm able to do is put it on and let them have a single immersive video experience, put it on and have Alicia Keys start singing, or put it on and see the Highline video, whatever it is, and then they take it off and they're like, wow, that was really cool, and they leave the store. What have I accomplished? And this is my thought, which is, they came into the Apple store to buy an iPhone case or to buy an iPad or whatever. They were curious about Vision Pro. So they're in your ecosystem probably. They're curious about Vision Pro. You let them try it. You show off your most impressive thing, and this is, again, I think the kind of like mistake about the early days of the Vision Pro, where they've gone all in on spatial computing as a thing, which, they may believe in. It may also be a combination of what they were able to ship and what they haven't been able to ship. But the fact that it doesn't really play very many games, and the games it plays are not like the games that you get on a Quest. And it's like, no, but it's a computer, right? Like, when somebody's got 5 minutes to see the Vision Pro, what you don't want to do is show them how to launch an app. I mean, you don't. Like, that's great and all. But what I want to do is, if I've got 5 minutes with somebody, is I want to put it on and do the immersive video thing. I want to do the demo reel, and then I want to say, which one would you like to watch? You want to watch the Highline? You want to watch Alicia Keys? You want to watch this? Don't watch the MLS video thing. But, what do you want to see? I want minimum. I just want them to have some time in immersive video. That's what I want, because that's the platform at its best. That's the thing that's going to blow them away more than anything else. I don't need to teach them the window interactions. Ideally, you'd even have it set up to just play the video when you put it on. And I know that's not the full demo. I know it's not showing off all the capabilities of this thing. But I think maybe the goal in retail right now should not be, let's sell a bunch of $3,500 headsets that most people don't want. It should be, you're already in the Apple store. You're already in our ecosystem. You presumably like Apple as a brand. Here's the new thing that's totally impractical right now, but you can get a taste of it. You can see how amazing it is, and then you can keep in the back of your mind, oh, one, yeah, Apple is where futuristic stuff happens. They're really on this. This is why I like Apple as a brand, is that they're looking at the future. And also, oh, that Vision Pro, I have experienced it. If somebody asks me, I can say, yeah, it was pretty amazing. That's good. And then, yeah, maybe in a few years, when it's cheaper, it's more affordable, there's more stuff for it, maybe I will buy one of those because I've experienced it now and I had a positive experience with it. All of that stuff is good. None of it leads directly to a sale in the store. And I think that's okay. So if that's what Apple is doing here in retail, which is kind of admitting that Vision Pro is more there to enhance the brand, point the way to the future, get people to have a great experience with the product right now, because that's the goal. In 5 minutes or 10 minutes and not 30 minutes, they should totally do that. And I hope that that is a more broad policy that is coming for Apple retail, because if you think about the way that they rolled out the sales, where it was 30-minute time slots, whole walkthrough, how do you move windows around, how do you launch apps? It's like, first off, I totally understand if nobody wants to spend 30 minutes getting that whole demo. Lots of us are really busy and we're just in the mall and I just wanted to get an iPhone case, but I am curious if you can lower that barrier and get that thing on their face quickly and have them see an immersive video. That's a victory. Even if they don't buy it, it has so many ancillary benefits. So I sort of feel like until they've got something that makes a better case for actually converting to sale, that's what they should do. I mean, have the 30-minute video walkthrough available for people who have the time, of course, but go with your best 5 minutes if you can. So I hope that this is not, the people I'm hearing from are sort of like, yeah, we're trying this, but we got indoctrinated in this other way of doing it, but now we're doing it this way. And like, is that good? Is that bad? And like, I think a lot of retail employees are like, it's bad because everything here is about sales now. And I think that's culturally going to be a challenge for Apple retail. But like, this product should not be about sales. This product should be about halo. It should be about making people more impressed with Apple as a brand as they come in to buy some other Apple product, and also about the future, about thinking about Vision Pro, being able to have a firsthand experience with it. The more people who experience that immersive video today are more people who will be willing to buy a version of it in 3 years or 5 years.
Yeah, I agree with this. I think it is as important right now to, like, one person at a time change the public perception about the product. Because right now, the general public perception is too expensive. And it is too expensive, but wouldn't it be nicer to say, like, it's really expensive, but it's really cool?
I want one of these. I can't afford it, but maybe in a few years I'll buy one.
Because everybody knows the way that Apple works, I feel like.
Yes.
Like, if you're at all even tangentially interested in technology, there's going to be a cheaper one in the future.
That's why I think it's such a great thing to get the demo as a brand extension, as a brand to glow up the brand even more. It's like, people are already in your store and they don't have 30 minutes, but you can give them 5 or 10, and you can give them an experience that reinforces their connection to Apple as an innovator, as a company that makes cool stuff, and that the stuff keeps getting cooler.
Yeah.
Even if this isn't for you today, it makes you go, oh, someday I've seen the future. And you presumably will tell people too. It's like, oh, yeah, that Vision Pro, like you said, I know it's too expensive and all, but it was amazing. One of these days, those geniuses at Apple are going to do this thing, and it's going to be amazing.
When it's $500, I'll buy one. And
the most people possible to have that experience should be the goal.
And I would wonder if you said I can give you 5 minutes, if it's just going to be video, they might not even need to. They could create a version where you don't even need to do the eye training.
Exactly. Right? That's what I was saying. Is like, you might want to have a few in the drawer that literally just go on your face and start playing video.
And there's just like no setup really. You just put it on, and as long as you have good enough vision,
it measures your
starts.
pupils, and it just starts playing. And obviously if you need correction, then so be it. But like, if you don't need correction, just make it happen.
Yeah, because then it could be like because that's also a thing, right? To get a fuller demo where someone's like, "Wow, that was amazing! Like, do you want to do some more?" If they say yes, like, all right, we'll just do this quick setup and we'll start showing you some other stuff. Like, there's something interesting in that. And you know what? the what if could be a perfect part of the demo too, right? Like that you could do that instead of encounter dinosaurs or something like that. I can imagine Apple using that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Ladder. Let's be real. We all have a tendency to put some things off until the last minute, whether it's going to the DMV, arranging a dental checkup, getting to that next home improvement project, like, oh boy, do I have some pictures that need to go on the wall, and I just haven't gotten around to it. You know these kinds of things I'm talking about. Usually stuff that's not that important. You'll get to it when you get to it. While this works out most of the time, there is something you cannot afford to wait on, and that is setting up term coverage life insurance. You may have seen life insurance commercials on TV, you may have heard me talk about it on this show and think I'll get into that later on, but this isn't something you should wait on. Choose life insurance through Ladder today. Ladder is 100% digital, no doctors, no needles, no paperwork when you apply for $3 million in coverage or less. You just answer a few questions about your health in an application. Ladder's customers rate them 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot. They made Forbes' best life insurance list of 2021 as well. All you need is a few minutes and a phone or laptop to apply. They have smart algorithms that work in real time, so Ladder will let you know if you're instantly approved. There are no hidden fees. You can cancel at any time, and you'll get a full refund if you change your mind in the first 30 days. Ladder's policies are issued by insurers with long, proven histories of paying claims. They are rated A and A+ by AM Best. And since life insurance costs more as you age, now is the time to cross it off your list. So go to ladderlife.com/upgrade today to see if you're instantly approved. That is ladderlife.com/upgrade. One last time, ladderlife.com/upgrade. Our thanks to Ladder for their support of this show and Relay FM. It is time for some Ask Upgrade questions. First comes from Carl, who says, on the Mac, third-party system utilities and extensions are essential to professional and power user use. Apps like Alfred, CleanShot X, Audio Hijack, Better Snap Tool, and more. Even if iPadOS was improved, there would still be issues and wants for third-party apps like these. Do you think Apple will ever allow the ability for apps like these to become system utilities on the iPad?
I don't think that there's a clear demarcation between like a system utility and a utility. Like they're all utilities. I think there's a spectrum. I think some of them require Apple to provide access. I think some of them require Apple to change the way that the operating system works. Like number one is allow background tasks, right? Mm-hmm. That's number one. Alfred watches the file system in the background. Like, I don't know if Apple would need to make any changes beyond that, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't Alfred? Oh, no, Alfred's a launcher. I mean, a launcher runs in the background, waits for a global keyboard shortcut and launches it, right? I was thinking of Hazel, which also like watches the file system for changes. Yep. You could do that too, I think. Like something like CleanShot is using the Screenshot API. They might need to, or a Screenshot system, they might need to. But you can capture video and you can capture screens. So that's already there. A lot of this stuff is already there. It's just that
And Apple, a lot of these things on the Mac, especially in recent years, Apple has been creating more official ways for things to be done.
Like Audio Hijack, which now uses Apple's official APIs. And okay, great, see?
Because CleanShot used to use the accessibility stuff, and now it uses the newly created screen
capture. Yep. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff there's an API or there's a private API that Apple uses, and that I think a lot of this stuff gets solved primarily by allowing background apps and allowing global keyboard shortcuts to be assigned, which would also be great for things like shortcuts. So, whether they would go to the level of something like Better Snap Tool or Better Touch Tool, or, there are going to be subsystems, and this is true on the Mac to a certain extent. There's going to be subsystems that are harder to get access to. But I think it's a spectrum. I think it's a continuum. And I think some of those apps would be enabled by Apple, allowing background tasks and allowing apps to have access to stuff that Apple's own system frameworks do. And some of them, you can do them, but you just can't do them in the background, right? You got to be the foreground app, which limits their utility. So I hope so.
I don't have faith in it. Honestly, I don't.
Oh, yeah. Like the chance that Apple would allow this, I think, well, let me put it this way. I think saying iPadOS should allow background tasks to run more aggressively than they do on, say, an iPhone is a better chance than Apple saying we're going to let you virtualize macOS. I think background tasks is an iPad OS feature that would add a bunch of utility, and they can afford to do it because of the hardware. And somebody mentioned on a podcast, I don't even remember what podcast, it was like the danger. Was it Marco? I think it was Marco who said on ATP said, well, the danger is then you've got stuff running in the background, and it changes how you handle using an iPad, because people can send things in the background and it can kill the battery life. And they're like, why did this happen? And the answer is you mistakenly sent something to the background or whatever. It's like, that's true, but I would really hate it that the argument is, well, we should never allow on any iPad ever backgrounding because it might cause some problems to some users. It's like, I mean, well, what are we even doing here? Let's just stop. Let's stop selling the iPad Pro as well, because why?
Yeah.
I believe that that Apple can find ways to do this and communicate to users. Maybe it only works in Stage Manager mode, right? Maybe it only works if you turn on background task. Maybe it only works if there's a scare dialogue that says, alert, alert, this app is going to do this. And then, you know what? If it drains your battery a little bit and you have to learn that, so be it. But it adds so much functionality that you can't hide away from functionality. There's already functionality in iPad OS that allows added complexity. And I guess the argument is basically we only should have one, and that should be the lowest common denominator of feature set on iPad OS. And I just don't agree. I don't think it's an insolvable problem for Apple. And I think that it's a convenient excuse to say, oh, well, Apple can't add features to the iPad because that would confuse people on low-end iPads, or it would make them not understand. It's like, well, if Apple does its job that won't happen. So let's not assume that Apple would do the job badly. Let's imagine what if Apple did the job well, so that iPads that had lots of RAM and lots, right, and a powerful processor could do background tasks, and maybe the iPads that don't can't. And I'm okay with that. Like, I am super okay with that sort of thing. So I hope someday, it really would be a thing that would unlock a lot of possibilities on iPad OS. Mm-hmm. How pessimistic am I about it? I don't know. I mean,
let's see if you'll pick it in the draft next week, right?
Yeah, probably not.
Mark says, given recent controversies regarding Scarlett Johansson and OpenAI and Google's new AI summaries feature, do you think Apple should go back to using the term machine learning to avoid comparisons?
Apple will use the term AI as long as it's convenient.
Yeah. Because
that's my answer. It's marketing.
Well, they only started using AI when it was convenient, right? Where they've now rebranded their machine learning things as AI.
As AI, because everybody's like, where's Apple on AI? And Apple's like, guys, we've had all this stuff for years. And they're like, no, that's machine learning. We're asking you where you are on AI. Also, we're behind on what people think AI is, which is a chatbot.
I mean, everyone's behind on what AI actually is.
Yeah.
Right?
So we're going to call this AI because it makes us look better. And they will continue to call it AI until the moment that it doesn't make them look better. And there, again, people in the streets with torches and pitchforks about AI, at which point Apple will take one step back, rebrand everything as machine learning, start to whistle and disappear into a hedge.
And John says, rumors have it that the update to iOS at WWDC this year, as we've spoken about earlier, will be the biggest update ever. Do you think it will be all AI-related upgrades? If they are, I know I'll be really disappointed.
I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff in there. We talked about the home screen stuff. That's not an AI thing. I'm sure there will be plenty of other functions out there. Also, there's always new features that are machine learning based, right? And that they'll just call them AI things now. But like Photos, the Photos app always has new machine learning based stuff. And they added the whole thing with the autocorrect being based on an LLM or on a transformer model. On a transformer model last year. So like, there are going to be three classes of things. There are going to be some features that are just features. There are going to be some features that would have been there anyway, and they're going to be called AI because they can be. And then there'll be some AI features that'll be the ones that they'll try to make the most hay over. But we'll have to see. I think maybe there'll be fewer major new features than in past years because that are not AI because of the push for AI. But I don't think it's going to be like that there aren't features other than AI features.
I would also just say, and I'll say this to all upgradians, just try and keep an open mind. Like, don't be disappointed before WWDC, right? That like try not to make your mind that like if they talk about AI stuff at all, I'm going to be disappointed. Like we know they're going to. See what they have first and see how it makes you feel, right? Like they're a different thing. Like AI is different, right? Like AI, like machine learning is different to AI generative content. You know, like Apple's not necessarily going to be trying to replace artists here. They might just be helping you write a text message quicker, right? There aren't emoji artists that will go out of business because you can create weird emoji stickers. Like, they're still going to, just keep an open mind. I think you'll be happier that way. And just see what they've got before we all decide that it's going to be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
If you would like to send in a question of your own for a future episode, very easy to do so. Go to upgradefeedback.com. You can also leave us your feedback and follow up there. You can check out Jason at sixcolors.com. You can hear his shows here on Relay FM and at theincomparable.com. Theincomparable.com. I swallowed a couple of letters there, Jason. So I'll give it another go for you. You can listen to my shows here on Relay FM and check out my work at cortexbrand.com. Jason is at jsnell on social media. I am at imike, IMYKE. You can find video clips of the show on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, where we also have full video versions. We are at Upgrade Relay. Thank you to our members who support us at Upgrade Plus, and thank you to Ladder, Vitally, and Squarespace for their support of this show. We'll be back next week with the draft. Until then, say goodbye, Jason Snell.
Goodbye, Mike Hurley.